Thank you. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Board of County Commissioners Workshop for the Comprehensive Plan Amendments, October 2020 Plan Amendment Cycle. And we'll start with Planning Commission Executive Director, Melissa Zarnita.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have a number of items for you this afternoon that are responsive to some of the direction that the board gave us back in 2019 related to
roll call vote or attendance. Sorry. I need to do an attendance, please.
Okay, a roll call vote then?
Kemp?
Yes, here.
Overman?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Hagan? Commissioner Hagan? Myers? Here. White?
Here.
You have a quorum.
So I'll just say for the record, we don't need a quorum for our workshops, but thank you.
Okay. Again, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director of the Planning Commission, and we're pleased to be here this afternoon with a workshop on a number of plan amendments, many of which are responsive to direction from the board on the RP2 and the Waimama Village plan categories that you've had quite a bit of discussion about already today. I just wanted to introduce the items with a little bit of context that the RP2 land use category used to encompass the entire area that's going to be discussed. It was implemented into the comprehensive plan in the early 90s as part of a settlement agreement with the Department of Community Affairs. It was in 2007 that the Waimama area, as part of their community plan, broke off and created the Waimama Village 2. The RP2 category has had a number of changes over the years through text amendments to the comprehensive plan to try to address some of the issues that have arisen over the years. It wasn't until 2019, as a number of these rezonings came forward, that the board requested a comprehensive look at both land use categories. And as part of those motions, asked that the Planning Commission, with our partners at Development Services, go out and work with all of the stakeholders in the community to make changes to the comprehensive plan to address compatibility, infrastructure, and in particular in the Waimama area, the employment requirements that you were discussing earlier. We've had a number of challenges along the way through this process. COVID certainly has made it more challenging to communicate with the residents in the area. We thank you for the extensions to the moratoriums, because that additional time did allow us to have some in-person open houses in early November on both projects. So this is the first of two workshops for you to consider these items. And we know there's a lot of content in the different agenda items. We welcome your feedback, your direction, your questions, and we'll have a second opportunity to come back and talk about these after your January land use meeting. So we'll have another marathon day. But we want to make sure that we are getting the products right and that they're meeting your expectations. We are on track to have public hearings in February for you all to transmit these, and then in April to adopt them in advance of the moratoriums ending in May. With that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our team working on the RP2 project, which is the first one on the agenda, and that is Marianne Abramson and Jared Schneider. So Marianne.
Great, thank you, Melissa. So good afternoon, Commissioners. Marianne Abrahamson, Planning Commission staff. I am the project manager on the Planning Commission side for the RP2 Future Land Use Study, and I'm just here to introduce Jared Schneider, who's the project manager on the consultant team side. He's with Kim Horn, and he will be providing the proposed policy recommendations to you all this afternoon.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. Thanks for having us. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to roll in. What we've got today is a presentation and that was a great background by Melissa and Marianne. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and run through all the outreach and what we've heard, and then talk about some of the recommendations and how we've been addressing some of the comments that we've been receiving and updates that we want to talk about in the future. So yeah, RP2, again, our purpose is to evaluate and recommend the policy changes to the comp plan as well as the land development code. And really, this is a balancing act. We've heard a number of discussions already this morning, and we're trying to maintain the character, but then also look at efficient development patterns. So that's really the balance that we've been striking. I continue to use that word. The study area, again, we've seen a little bit of that already this morning. RP2 areas are in this kind of pink area and then this yellow area as well. And those are the RP2 zoned areas. And then this dashed purple color, this is the BALM community plan boundaries. So what I'm doing now is I'm zooming into the BALM community plan area, the RP2 areas in there, and really part of our scope was to look and see what's out there from a vacant developable acreage. And some of y'all have seen some of that also displayed in WTL+a's market study. We're really trying to get our hands around, as we walked into this, what's available to be developed. Or what could potentially be developed. So 34% of the RP2 area is vacant developable currently, and that's shown in these green areas. So now I'm going to transition to the north side of the RP2 area. And what we see here, again, the green acreages are the vacant developable lands, and that's a smaller portion within the north area, 12% is vacant developable. So now what I want to do is I want to transition to some of the outreach that we've heard. Again, Melissa hit on this quite a bit. There's been a lot of outreach started pre-COVID, and things have changed quite a bit. And I think staff have really done a good job of really managing that. So there's been a lot of outreach, starting with stakeholder interviews all the way to, as Michelle mentioned, we had a community open house that was virtual in early November as well as in person. So that was good. Again, so this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to maintain or balance the growth and maintain the rural character that's out there. So it's, I always like showing this picture because this is something our Balm Civic Association folks have shown us in the past, but we're really trying to figure out how do we again balance that. So some of the things, this is a word cloud that we put together, and it shows basically in our outreach what we heard. The most common responses. So you see rural, potential, proximity, poor infrastructure, congestion. We've heard a little bit of that already.
Jared, sorry to interrupt. I think we lost your presentation.
Oh, let me do this. Sorry about that. Can you see it now?
I think we're getting there. Yep.
Now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to keep moving on to the meat of it. So what we have here, we have a number of key stakeholders, and a lot of what we've seen here, there's some divergent views. There's some different ideas of what should happen. So we've got the development community, the Balm Civic Association, the general public, landowners, and what I'm showing in this slide is again trying to balance these differing ideas. There's again some strong opinions from the development community about clustering, creating. Commercial regs don't work. And then from the Balm Civic Association, we heard about half-acre lots wanting to really have infrastructure before development, preserving the green spaces, that character. The general public, we've heard about infrastructure congestion, commercial options. Some landowners have questioned the agricultural viability. Others have wanted to continue agriculture. So there's a balance there, and what we've seen, there are some interesting points where there's some concurrence with transportation options and infrastructure. That's something that we heard quite a bit. Another thing is just clarifying the code language, making it a little bit more clear. So that's something that we've been focusing on. So now I'm going to transition into the recommendations. And as Michelle said, there's a lot here that we'll unpack and we can talk about. So again, this is the RP2 area in these pink and yellow areas. And what we did is we established 2 different plan areas. And the pink area, really, we aligned this with the BALM community plan that was done. So that was the purpose of creating 2 separate RP2 areas. And so that's in this pink area. And the yellow area we're calling the North Village. And the intent wasn't to divide. Again, it was just to put more of a focus on the BALM community plan and the idea to maintain that character that's there. So what I want to do now is kind of walk through the densities that we've outlined in the current drafts. And what we've got so you'll see this North Village and then the BALM Village. What we have today are 1 dwelling units per 5 gross acres, and that's in line with what we talked about earlier in some of these discussions. Is we're not looking at providing increases without this is kind of the base. So it's really just looking at what you have to do to be able to get that increase. And so what we have are allowable densities above the base. There's certain things that you have to do automatically. You have to follow design guidance, including 40% of the open space, and then providing community benefits to get anything above this 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. And what I'm showing here is a graphic that on the North Village and the BALM Village, we separated it out. Again, the North Village, because there's not as much developable acreages, we said you could get up to 3 dwelling units per gross acres with community benefits. And then with transfer development rights, you could get up to 4 dwelling units. And that's consistent with what's in the code today. So this isn't any different from the comp plan, rather. So again, that's kind of consistent with the comp plan. And in the BALM Village, there's 2 different paths here. If it's 160 acres or greater, you can get up to 2 dwelling units per acre. If it's less than 160 acres, that's where right now the way the code's written, you'd have to aggregate into an area that's 160 acres or greater. And this is fairly consistent, again, with what's out there today from a density standpoint. So now I'm going to transition. This gets into kind of the specifics, the design guidance. And again, this is where we were trying to clarify what's in the comp plan today and what's in the land development code. So you'll see these numbers 1 through 5. And really what we spend time on and talking to the stakeholders and from our past studies and talking to the public is trying to specify these. So we've got housing types, buffering, screening, open space, and the commercial, and then transportation connectivity. And I'll get into these in a little bit more detail. So those are required, again, if you're trying to, like we said earlier, it's not accepted that you can get a density above the 1 dwelling unit per 5 gross acres. You have to do these. And then there's also the community benefits that you have to do. So we'll unpack this a little bit further. We'll go through these. So starting with number 1, the different housing types. What we've got on these slides, we're showing the existing code today and some of the newer requirements. So there's really no related requirements to housing types today. What we're trying to do and accomplish here is allow for different types of housing styles. And this goes back to what we heard from the BALM Civic Association. A lot of the rub out there are these suburban style homes, the 40-foot lots. So we're trying to provide a range of housing types. So we said no more than 60% of any given housing type and no less than 20%. Community benefits, again, you can get above your density. So this is the new requirements required, or this is required, the 3 different housing types. And then if you wanted to get above that, so the 2 dwelling units per gross acre, you have to do a minimum of 4. That's an option. Another thing we're looking at are the varying lot sizes. So we're trying to establish, again, from what we heard from the BALM Civic Association, some of the vistas that you see out there today are trying to keep that character. So what we really specify are the perimeter or the larger lots on the outside, the exterior, and then anything that's a smaller lot would be in the interior of a site. And any smaller lots, we've talked about a rear or alley loaded option. So this is just a picture example of showing how you can do different housing types and styles. And again, the smaller, we're really talking about the smaller ones being in the interior. Buffering and screening is a big one that came up quite a bit today. And in the code, what we have is a minimum of 250-foot buffers around 70% of the site. What we're showing in this example is that consumes around 45% of this simplified example. So this is something that we heard quite a bit from either side, from those that are in the Balm Civic Association that want to maintain this standard, and then others that landowners and others that find it difficult and challenging to do that. So what we tried to do is provide some really realistic examples. What we're calling is a sliding scale. So if you're going to try to come up with any deviation over the 250-foot buffer, you have to provide greater screening. And so again, this is where we're really trying to clarify the code. So there's options, but again, if you're going to try to deviate, it's really about that screening. The human eye can see up to a mile on a flat space. So a lot of times what we're trying to do is we're talking about opacity. And what I'm going to do is skip over. This is an example of a development south of us. This is almost 90% opacity. So you have a 50-foot buffer and you can't see the development. So we understand the concerns. And again, that's the balance we're trying to strike. If you're going to deviate below that 250-foot buffer that's there today, you need to provide some screening, some additional screening. Open space, that today is determined based on what's left over from clustering. What we've done in the code currently is we've started with the open space and specified anywhere up to 40%. And really, we've provided some flexibility in there, but we're trying to increase the open space element. So we do have ag, passive rec, and stormwater in the perimeter lots that you can do in that open space. Community benefits, we're allowing up to additional 10% of the site for ELAPP, and that gets you up to a bump. Again, all this I'm showing you is proposed code you have to do to get anything over that 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. Commercial policies, I know we've talked a lot about this, and we can unpack this a little bit more. Per the WTL+a study, existing commercial exceeds the market based on the households. We also talked about the demand that's out there that was referenced earlier. So currently, we're in the code, we're saying new developers are not required to provide the commercial. They're encouraged to do so, and there's specific bumps that are density bumps that are in there, weighted pretty heavily to kind of incentivize that. Large developments are encouraged to provide them. The intent is really to concentrate within commercial different nodes. So we heard this from definitely some of the Balm community plan and some of our stakeholder outreach to kind of really look at that. And then we're also requiring multimodal connections to the surrounding commercial. So this is kind of a map. We talked about the nodes. We're really, again, trying not to spread any kind of non-residential or commercial like peanut butter, really trying to focus it in within areas as you come in. And then they're really playing off of some of the commercial that's already out here on 301. So focus it in those specific areas. Transportation, that's again one that came up over and over again. So there's additional code that talks about the interconnected streets, sidewalk connections to the schools, a big one. And again, this is one everyone talked about, planning for the area, infrastructure for the area. We've hit on traffic on several of the roadways already. We heard about that earlier today. So there's additional kind of community benefits for providing additional infrastructure. So I know we've gone through a lot, but what I want to do right now is transition into kind of an example of what's out there today from the code, and then what we've proposed. So again, today, what you would have to do is you'd have a very specific clustering pattern, and then you could get up to 2 dwelling units per gross acre if you did the planned villages requirements. and you could get up to 4 with the TDRs. Again, you're clustering, and then the remainder is your open space, and then you're required to do that on-site commercial. And then we're showing those buffers that I hit on, those 250-foot buffers around 70% of the site. And so that's kind of this is a really simplified version from today. And then the proposed code as we have it today, you would start with your base density of 1 dwelling per 5 gross acres. You have to meet the design standards that are out there. And then really, if you want to get above, this base density, you have to provide community benefits. And so there's no specific clustering requirement. It's not something we specified. That could still happen. But really what we're looking at is trying to provide the additional open space and then include that screening, that buffering and screening that we talked about. And that would be reviewed through a PD process, and really trying to maintain that vista. And then there's the flexibility with the commercial. So that's really what we're looking at is providing options, but it has to be a community benefit for the surrounding area. So again, I know that's a lot. What I'm going to do now is kind of unpack this again and just talk about the North Village and the Balm Village. We've got that 1 dwelling per 5 gross acres. To get these density increases, you would have to, again, do the design standards, and then there's the community benefits. And here they are listed again. And really what it is it's a weighting system. And what the weighting system does is there's some of these benefits are basically higher than others. Some of them are harder to do. So constructing non-residential uses would be a higher density bump, but it typically comes into like 3 or 4 different community benefits that you would have to do just to get into this bump. So there's the constructing non-residential uses, dedicating on-site land, and that got a bump as well. The multimodal connections and transportation improvements, and again, there's housing types that we were hitting on. So this is just kind of a range. And you have to, the way we've built this is you have to do more than what's in those design standards to get that bump. So this is kind of where we're at in the process. I think Melissa did a very good job of talking about that earlier. And so, yeah, we're really looking kind of for your thoughts and feedback today. And as we kind of continue to refine this, again, it's something that there's a lot of different thoughts on this, and really trying to strike the right balance. So with that, I'll open up with some questions.
Thank you. And I see that Commissioner White, do you have your hand raised?
I certainly do, Madam Chair. Thank you. Well, let me just start by, I've said this time and time again, but just by saying that I grew up in that area, and I go back to elementary school with some of the families down there. And Commissioner Cohen, although this area is not in your district, it'll be an incredibly important policy initiative for you. It's very close to where our districts come together in South County. And Commissioner Merman and I like to sometimes call ourselves sort of the dynamic duo of South County, and I very much look forward to having the same kind of relationship with you. But all the new residents in this area are going to be, when they want to travel on the interstate, for example, they're going to be jumping on at 674 or Big Bend or Gibsonton Drive. All 3 interchanges are points at which our districts meet and come together. Let me just start by saying that I've received some emails that would seem to indicate that there is still some unrest among the existing residents in the area. We have that active group in Balm that are members of that Balm Community Balm Civic Association. So I would just urge, in fact, implore staff to continue the outreach there with those folks. larger half-acre lots is something that I continue to hear a push for. But I'm convinced, though, that clustering with the right things done with the green space, like agricultural uses, the right architectural facades on the buildings and things like that, I'm convinced that you can create a rural feel and a rural lifestyle with those tools. And it might be just a matter of just the planners just trying to sit down with maybe one or two spokespersons from the group just to trade information on some of those planning ideas. I have heard a couple of ideas that I'm intrigued about. One is the concept of maybe thinking about a sliding scale for densities in the Balm community plan area, to where maybe some parcels that wouldn't be eligible for that 2 dwelling units per gross acre, maybe there's a way that they could have 1.5 units per gross acre, or 1 unit per gross acre, or even a fraction of a unit per gross acre. And that could be a way to help create some of those rural-sized, estate-sized lots around the perimeters of the village that we talked about. So I would urge staff to engage some of the stakeholders about that sliding scale idea, and also to have a robust conversation around TDRs, transfer of development rights programs within specifically the Balm, the south area of RP2. Again, that could end up being a great tool to perhaps send some densities from some of those areas that are just perfect for the larger rural-sized estate lots, send them into the areas, for example, along the 672 corridor, where a little bit more density might make more sense. I do have a question for staff. Are we intending to have some sort of a code requirement that would require that any green space that's created would be conveyed to an HOA or some other group that would then take over ownership and maintenance of it, operations of it?
Commissioner, I believe right now there is some different language, and I'll say there's a difference between what the comprehensive plan, the latest version I had looked at, was requiring versus what the code was requiring. It certainly can have that as part of the code if that's consistent with what the comprehensive plan language ultimately requires, to have it owned or maintained by some entity. That's not uncommon language. We do that, for instance, with platted buffers around development projects. So it's certainly a potential, but I think the code and what the comprehensive plan is intending does need to be reconciled.
And Mr. Gormley, can you refresh my memory? I'm pretty sure that some of the RP2 lands within the Balm community plan area are inside the urban service area. Is that correct? Or are they all considered outside the
I believe that they're all outside.
They're all outside.
If
Okay.
there is any, it would be just a smidge.
That would make any point that I was going to make a moot point. I'll just close by saying that I like the concept of the mixed, the mix of lot sizes with the larger rural estate size lots with the smaller lots. I would just urge you to engage the folks in our Conservation and Environmental Lands Department, just to make sure that we do that right and don't, to the greatest extent possible, that we don't close off any wildlife corridors or that sort of thing. In other words, I know that the ELAPP folks, to the greatest extent possible, would want those larger rural-sized lots, to create or allow for wildlife corridors between the larger conservation parcels. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, you're recognized. Oops, you're muted.
Commissioner, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm going to try to skip around a little bit between the RP2 and WVR2 because there's some points I wanted to make before Commissioner Overman has to leave. She's still here, right? Or did she make it back? Okay. All right. You know, as you saw in the public comments, remarks about this, and as we'll start seeing in our email again, I'm sure everybody in this county expects us to plan for and provide infrastructure with development. And as I've been discussing with staff, I'm afraid these plans are not addressing that concern. I agree with Commissioner White that I like some of these design standards, the mix, the different housing types to keep from the cookie cutter development that doesn't fit with the communities of Balm and Waimama. But, you know, the main reason for having these moratoriums was to address the big problems that we have with infrastructure in the South County area and increasing density in these areas. You know, I think before we contemplate doing that, we need assurances from our planners that the increasing density with these benefits and bonuses won't further aggravate the problems that we're seeing in South County. I mean, I'm seeing here that, you know, the rural area is supposed to be 1 house per 5 acres. So these rural villages, RP2, WVR2, gave you a way to do 10 times that. Instead of 1 house per 5 acre, you could do 10 houses on 5 acres because that's 2 per acre. All right, so you can multiply your density 10 times if you made a little self-contained village and captured the trips internally so they wouldn't be impacting the transportation infrastructure and driving into Tampa every day like I talked about earlier. But now we see not only 2 per acre, well, backing up, the market study that we've referred to a few times today, and I would urge all the commissioners to read that if you haven't yet. This market study was done for these areas, for RP2 and WVR2, completed right now in October. And it says that the county has already approved more development in these areas, RP2 and WVR2, than the market can support for nearly 20 years. And it says, in fact, to fill up all the PDs that this county has already approved over my dead body in WVR2, Waimama's growth rate would need to double. Now, if Waimama's growth rate doubles soon, just by filling up the areas we've already developed, we're going to run out of water. And our roads will be overcrowded, and our schools will be overcrowded, and our fire rescue times are going to get too long. And so I think we need all that to be part of this discussion. I think our citizens are clamoring for our planners to work together with transportation and water people to assure us that whatever these density bonuses are, they're not going to further drive us in the ground on infrastructure. And, you know, with that, I think I would ask staff to put up that graphic that I've sent to the commissioners ahead of time, so I can just talk a little bit about the problems that this moratorium was supposed to address. And, you know, that I would like it, you know, at our next workshop for our planners to explain that we're not creating more problems, right? And so you see here, the line on the bottom is the projected demand for water just in South County. The projected water demand in South County, and that's based on the Bieber projections of growth from the university, filling up our land in the densities that are currently allowed in our comprehensive plan. So if we change our comprehensive plan to allow higher densities in South County with density bonuses in RP2, you're talking about 3 per acre, 4 per acre. So that's a lot more than 1 per 5. If we change our comp plan to allow higher densities, that demand line is going to go up higher sooner. All right. Now, if we double, you know, if development in Waimama doubles because of development we've already approved, that's going to go up higher, faster. Now, even if we don't change a thing, look at what happens at those corners of the supply, those corner points where we get some new water infrastructure. In 2024, Tampa Bay Water is planned to put a booster station online that will boost South County water. This is just South County water supply from 58.6 million gallons a day to 63. All right. And then in 2028, you've got another pinch point, another potential crisis point before the Tampa Bay water pipeline comes online, and then we'll have plenty of water, okay? But what I'm worried about is raising that demand line too fast, too soon. And in 2024, I mean, all we have to do is have a little bit more development than what the projection says in South County, and we're not going to have enough. The supply is not going to meet the demand. And if these planned booster stations and pipeline projects don't come on exactly as planned, if they come in 6 months later, we're in trouble. We have more demand than supply for water. So what happens then? I'll tell you what happens. Then everybody in South County is put on draconian water restrictions, and because the water pressure drops when you have too much demand and not enough supply, it can drop into dangerous levels. Water pressure is already dropping in South County. It's supposed to be like 80 pounds per square inch, 70 pounds per square inch. We are seeing in the low to mid 30s sometimes in some areas. And if it gets into the 20, we're on a boil water notice. And the fire hydrants stop working like they're supposed to. So we're looking at some issues of infrastructure already in South County because growth is happening faster than our infrastructure, and that's what our citizens are trying to tell us. Yeah. So, and I think you've heard that people in South County today, at the certain points in the day, their water, they describe it as a trickle coming out. They can't get a shower. They can't get enough for coffee sometimes in some areas because of the stresses on the system already. Now, schools is another piece of infrastructure, and I'll just ask you all to look at that diagram and go over it with staff that I've given you and before our next meeting. But I just briefly want to remind you that in September, the school district representatives came to the county commission meeting to tell us we are in a crisis of overloading school capacity in South County. They said it's because this county has approved too much development in South County without allowing for the school capacity. And they warned us that we are headed for double sessions in portable classrooms. And they said they have no place to even build new schools in South County, particularly out towards the rural areas, because all the roads are substandard out there, because it's in the country, it's in the rural area. Fire rescue, we've had chiefs and fire union representatives coming to the county commission. warning us that fire rescue response times are already getting too long because sprawling development farther and farther away from their stations, farther out of the urban core into the rural area, stretches them out too thin, and heavy traffic exacerbates their response times too. So that means the farther out we sprawl, the farther out we need to build more stations, which we simply cannot afford to do. And meanwhile, if someone is having a heart attack, seconds count in that response time. And they warned us that that is getting dangerous. And if your house is on fire and the water pressure is too low, then the fire hydrants don't work. So transportation is the last piece of infrastructure. I will mention that we are billions of dollars behind on road improvements inside the urban service area. We cannot afford to provide roads or transit outside the urban service area, and the previously approved sprawl that has been allowed to clog our roads with traffic throughout the county to the point of frustrating, time-wasting gridlock is lowering the quality of life in Hillsborough County and impacting our ability to attract new businesses. So I'm happy with the community benefits and the design standards and everything, but I want to remind the planners that the point of the moratorium was to address the pressing community concerns about figuring out a way to plan growth, to time it, possibly with need, so that it doesn't overwhelm our infrastructure. Thank you.
It's a big topic with a lot to say, and I will recognize Commissioner Overman in a minute. I'm just going to throw in at this point, I'd like to address some other topics as well, but just throw in at this point because we have two new commissioners that part of the reason our infrastructure has suffered so greatly is because our impact fees were so far below, and many cases had not been raised for 35 years. That means we lost, I calculated just in the last decade, more than $1 billion in infrastructure for roads, schools, wastewater and water. It's because some of that has been remedied, but some of it has not, and you will be facing that as we move forward and looking at that. Some of it we've worked on, but just for instance, schools. And I think I calculate that we lost in just the last decade something close to $400 million. And so what happens with the schools is they no longer take out loans. They've instead just slow walked building them. And then they couldn't build them because they didn't have the funds accumulated. I will just tell you that in Pasco, Polk, and Manatee County, like counties all over Florida, they have had for the last decade much higher fees than us and never let them go 3 years without an update, which we have now incorporated in what we've changed. But with that, I'll recognize Commissioner Overman. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that because I am unfortunately short for this visit. But much of what Commissioner Smith and Kemp has said is important to the conversation, and I do appreciate a lot of good work that's being done here. But if we really address some of the things that we wrestled with this morning, and what other community plans have wrestled with, is the lack of connectivity of the actual development to the commercial areas that support the communities. Not only creating jobs, but also reducing the number of trips. So in this particular example, while I do appreciate the alternatives in terms of, for example, I don't know what the number of the slide was, but when we showed what changed, design guidance and community benefits slide that showed the design guidance, one of which were 5 issues and commercial was not required, versus the community benefits and what they entailed would need to be a good trade-off in the event that you were wanting to go that route. My concern is we'll find ourselves, unfortunately, in the same place here that we are in Waimama. If there's not proximity to those commercial areas, then it doesn't work. We've already figured that out for the last 2 years of banging our heads against the wall, along with, the developers, as well as the homeowners in the area and the rural areas and the agricultural community, trying to figure out how to solve this problem when, I want to develop here. I own the land. I've got the permits. I just need the zoning. I just need to move forward. And I've already got everything approved. I just have to get the project moving forward. But the infrastructure is not there to support it because it's not connected to those commercial areas. And as we discussed in a couple of meetings ago, it's not as the bird flies. It's as the road goes that matters. And so I think it's incredibly important that we look at these areas and define the proposed commercial zoning. And as to, I think what was alluded to earlier today, that, if as things are developed, it has to develop close to those commercial zones. There has to be connectivity to allow the community to grow. Whereas on the edges of these areas, it makes little sense to do it right now. So to bring back to what I've been trying to get done, and I know Commissioner White is eager to do, as well as many in our agricultural community, is to finally get a TDR plan that has a true economic value to the agricultural community to allow it to stay rural for the time phasing that Commissioner Smith just described in terms of the infrastructure that's not there for the people that want to be there. So for example, we'll have plenty of water in 2030. Well, it's 10 years away. If we've got a 10-year TDR program for those areas that should stay rural because we don't have the infrastructure, maybe we could work on developing in areas closer to where the commercial and the community benefits could be developed along the way. And then people can plan their investments. They can plan their retirement. They can plan their homes. They can plan their land use, and they can plan their agricultural farms. Because right now, we want to be able to create density. We need housing. I need housing like no tomorrow. Don't get me wrong. I need affordable housing. But it's not affordable if it's, 30 miles off of somewhere else and you've got to own 2 cars to be able to function. And there's no schools in the area, so you're driving all over the county to get your kids to school. That's not affordable. So I want to find out if it's possible to include an on-site commercial requirement for parcels above a certain acreage if they do not meet the locational requirement. And if we're doing open space design guidance, has there been discussion with county staff on whether these sites would be suitable for and able to be maintained by ELAPP, that to preserve our green space, our conservation areas, and our wildlife corridors, so that they could be maintained as needed, but use the TDR program to be able to assist those that still own the land and still need to use it for agricultural purposes. Because, you can't have a 100-acre farm in the middle of a residential community. It doesn't work. I have friends that lived in Dover that lived near the strawberry farms, and they had severe respiratory problems because of the spraying that was necessary during the growing season. And now that may have been an allergic response, but it also was a compromise. So I do think it's really important for us to think about, while I do appreciate the idea of having, mixed communities with benefits, that community benefits that actually create what we are trying to create, is like rural urban towns. That makes sense, but not out in the middle of nowhere. It's got to be phased where we can afford to gradually build the infrastructure to support it, recognizing we have a 30-year deficit too. We can't fix that 30-year deficit with new impact fees. That's the problem. So we have to create value in those communities. And that's why I'm eager to see us move forward on an economically viable TDR program that has different timelines that can allow us to plan accordingly. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Commissioner Overman. I don't see anyone else, so I will start my piece here, and I almost don't know where to begin. And again, like all three that preceded me, is more a generalized piece, but I'll start by saying, for the new commissioners, lest you probably haven't felt the burn yet, but you will start to get some of the 2,000 emails, and we could just forward them to you if you like, that we've received over the last year, where people are furious. They're furious at the pace of development. Not only that, as you've heard, we have substandard roads, no schools, no fire rescue. I mean, and no water. And what I don't really understand, I guess, is why it's us saying this, and where in the system, where in our planning are the stops put? So we just can't go on when we don't have the proven water, or we don't have the schools, or we don't have the roads. They just don't seem to be there. It just seems to be, you just approve. And I don't know. I mean, we are past crashing period, I think, in a lot of ways. I don't think people understand the rapacious pace that this has taken, and with the lack of infrastructure that is unmatched, I believe, in the state of Florida for any county. I really do, from looking at everything that I've seen, and I've done quite a bit of looking at it. One of the things that confirmed what I've been feeling, but I just haven't seemed to had any confirmation of it. And I'm a little surprised that it wasn't more highlighted. What I would like to do is invite in this firm, WTL, the market study, that is, I mean, I need to read it like 5 more times to absorb everything in it, but I think we need a workshop just on this. We need to have the WTL and Associates in, because they have said so much about this. And I don't think, quite honestly, we should go a step further in moving on this, what we do here, until we have the incredible work that has been done by WTL. And I'll talk first off, just to discuss a few things. I think it's too bad that we almost didn't have the wetland density credit discussion that we have put on to the end, because I think it's really critical here. In fact, I saw it on one of the first slides. I will tell you what you'll learn at the end is that a lot of many other places do not have wetland density credits. And one of the things I've always felt is the TDRs, the transfer of development rights, will never work for us, because we already give away the whole house with asking very little, including not even, reasonable impact fees in any way. And so that was confirmed to my amazement when I read the WTL report. In fact, they said that, you need to have if you want to do transfer of development rights, you better get serious and not give away every single thing you get without requiring anything for it. And, I think we need to, and they talk about how to develop a serious TDR program, which we can't do it. And one of the main things that they point out, and I'll go into that later, is our overly generous wetlands density policy. And as long as we have that, as we give all these credits for something like wetlands, then we can't be looking at credits for other things. I mean, it's just crazy, our credit system. Not to mention, and again, to emphasize, I think the important point that Commissioner Smith made is, right now, they have the right to one entitlement, one unit of development per 5 acres. And already, when we approve these, we're giving them 5 times more. And then 10 times more, I'm sorry, excuse me, yes. 2 units per acre. And then they're piling all these other densities on it, density credits on it, like the wetlands or the other things that are suggested. And really, a lot of the community benefits are standard things that any development will want and have anyway. So why those should make them eligible for more density or this rezoning, I'm not sure. I have issues with that. I'll talk too. I made we approved as a board, in fact, unanimously, I believe, we for years had conservation, or we had areas that were set aside that, as they say here, like 40% open space. But we weren't putting conservation easements on it. So this open space, in fact, there were a number of gas stations, believe it or not, that have been built on top of wetlands because there weren't conservation easements that were made on it. The other thing that looking into the wetlands that I noticed with other areas is not only don't they do conservation easements over it, but they do a lot of conservation easements and do density credits just for regular uplands, corridors, wildlife corridors, protection of fragile environmental lands. In fact, that's what you'll learn is it's mostly not about wetlands, but it's about offering TDRs for those or density credits for protecting those because the wetlands are already protected and are not available for density credit, so they get it for other things. But when we made as a policy our conservation easements, and at the time, I was kind of told it's a little bit shocking to do something like that, and we don't have it as an ordinance or part of our land development code, and I think we need to do that. And not only that, I was told that the maintenance of those lands would be too difficult for us in the future, but I noticed that a lot of other counties seem to have no problem with that and say that it has to be publicly dedicated conservation easements that they're responsible for maintaining. So they seem to be able to do that. Also, to emphasize Commissioner Overman's point about the commercial, these are in BALM commercial entitlements, which I found a little shocking myself at first, because that's all it says is that in the future, sometime there'll be some commercial there. And in the future, they could change that. But instead of requiring on-site commercial, and then I think it's a 2 mile, it has to be within 2 miles. We're looking at 2 miles as the crow flies, not 2 miles as the person goes, and then the entitlements don't even exist. So we've had people testify or show us citizens who say, yep, nearest store to me right here is up this road 10 miles and over this road 5 miles. That's where I get my gallon of milk, because these things don't exist. So I do think for trip capture purposes or thinking about it, it's a real issue. And then this market study is quite amazing. But as Commissioner Smith said, the entitlements are already there for the next 20 years. And that's the graph you showed us with the water, that if those entitlements are used that are already in place, I mean, it's not as if we are desperate and we need to encourage density. In fact, it's taking away from us. The other thing they say in this report that's amazing is for every acre of agriculture, it's a benefit of for every dollar in taxes for agriculture, we benefit by 75 cents from it. So it's only 25 cents that we provide in infrastructure or assistance, what operations or whatever that is. And I think this is incredibly low. I'm curious that would be revised, but they say for this other types, we're actually $1.26 for this kind of suburban or these developments that they're putting in place. So every dollar we're losing 26 cents. And I'd really like that reevaluated, because I really think that that's probably off by a long mark from anything I can tell. But I think those are the points I wanted to make. I think that the community benefits are certainly not ambitious enough for me to ever want to trade the current system in for what you're proposing here. There's got to be a lot more work done on conservation easements, on wetland densities, on no more design exceptions outside the rural service area. I mean, and I don't see any reason to drive market densities at this time. We cannot even catch up. We are so far behind with what we have now that it will be of great cost. And sometimes that cost isn't just the cost of infrastructure, which we don't even have the dollars for. It's the cost that people suffer in quality of life from the lack of infrastructure. And sometimes it's things as desperate as not being able to turn your faucet on. And you know, where do you fix that? And how could it even get this far already? But I will let Ms. Zernita, I don't see anybody else that wants to speak, so I'll let Ms. Zernita, I think, move to the next item at this time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. We will take all of that, and certainly we had anticipated the potential of having WTL+a at our next workshop. We'll work with Mr. Gormley on the scheduling to make sure there's enough time on that day to do all of that. So
can I ask one more question? I'm sorry about WTL. So they say they have a recommendation number 5 among them is complete a comprehensive cost benefit analysis of redevelopment of South County. And I think that's extremely important. So how are we moving? Can you just let us know how we're moving on this recommendation? What's going to happen with that?
At this point, that's not something that we are actively moving forward on, but if that's something the board would want to, I think it would fall naturally in with our update of the comprehensive plan, which we are working on the overall land use element. I mean, these two categories are a big part of the land use element that is getting updated, but there's whole other sections that do relate to, and we've been starting to have discussions with county staff about how to approach redevelopment and the need for creating those types of economic centers and things like that in South County. So I think that would be the place for it to fold into, would be into the update of the land use element as part of the comp plan update.
I'll just say, I think it's just essential, critical to moving forward on any of this at all. Okay. I very much want that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you very much. So our next item is the items proposed on Waimama, and I'll turn it over to Tatiana Gonzalez.
Thank you, Melissa. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Tatiana Gonzalez, Planning Commission staff. I am actually project manager for the Waimama Village Residential Land Use Study and Community Plan Update. I'm here to introduce Ms. Karen Sabia from Florida Center for Community Design and Research at the University of South Florida. She is the project consultant for the study and will be presenting the proposed policy recommendations to us. Here.
Taryn, we can.
You hear me?
And Taryn, you may be muted.
Yes, Karen.
If you go, up to the top where you see slideshow. Yep, right there. Right there where it says slideshow. Click on that. And then go from the beginning to the left-hand side. There you go. And I believe you're muted right now as well. I think. Say you're on mute. Unmute. Tatiana, can you hear us? You can? All right, can you move closer to your mic so we can hear you?
Sure.
Okay. And who will be giving the presentation?
Karen.
Are they muted?
Yes, she's muted.
Karen is still muted.
Oh, okay.
She's having trouble unmuting herself.
They can go ahead and speak. I have unmuted them.
Thank you. Is that better?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, excellent. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that, everybody. I was having trouble getting it to unmute. So again, I'm Taryn Sabia. Thank you, commissioners, for having us this afternoon for the workshop. Just to recap a little bit, we are doing the community plan update for Waimama. In that community plan update, we're looking at 3 specific things. One was to update the existing Waimama community plan from 2007. We're looking at the WVR2 policy update as part of that component and the downtown vision and strategic action plan. So there's a number of policy documents that have been developed during the update, as well as an actual vision document for the overall community plan component and that strategic action plan, which addresses downtown. Those elements came from the previous plan, and so we wanted to incorporate it in this update. And this is just to recap a little bit of our community outreach this past year. Many of you know about this, but for those commissioners who are new, we kicked off in March. We were able to get our 3.5-day charrette with the community in just before the pandemic shut everything down. So we were thankful that we got to be in the community and working with them. We did do a community survey. We did virtual work sessions over the summer. We presented to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners previously. We had meetings with different community groups following that, and we did do both virtual open houses as well as in-person open houses. And now here we are with you today for the workshop. Some of the key objectives and looking at the livable communities element. And again, some of the ones that are highlighted are those that are most important to the community, were reiterated. And a number of the things that we heard from the community members were in the original plan. And some of those have just gotten a bit more focused, or they've added some things that have come up over the past almost 15 years. So looking at those, we heard a lot about walkability, public transit, bicycle networks, and the idea of the walking school bus, wanting kids in the community to be able to walk and bike safely to school, which they don't feel they can currently do. They wanted a distinct vision and character for Waimama, looking to revitalize Waimama's downtown by leveraging infrastructure improvements. We've heard a lot about infrastructure improvements today, and this is something the community did talk a lot about, and something that we feel has held some of the commercial development back, that lack of infrastructure that's currently there, creating opportunities for strengthening the community's access to jobs, education, and the region as well. And so they think that having these opportunities within their community is really important. And then they want to be able to have easy access to other areas within Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa. Additional components, maintain affordability in the area. This is something that's a big concern to the community. They know development is happening. They've seen it over the past several years, and so they want to make sure that there is an affordability aspect to it. They want to ensure that the final Waimama Village Community Plan communicates a framework for sustainable and coordinated community development. And this is really something that we took on through the plan process. How do we use elements and policy to really help convey a self-sustaining community and help to really encourage one that would be sustainable over time? Leveraging new development to support existing amenities and the desired increase of retail that everyone in the community has talked about wanting to see in the downtown. And that's something that we have looked at through a number of mechanisms, and we'll talk about the one that we're going to show you today. And then adopting policies that will help achieve the community plan overall. And so this is really the format that we have taken. Health, equity, resilience, and sustainability were guiding principles. These are big issues within the community. And so when we're talking about them, we had three real critical needs that came up: health and access to health care, housing, the housing need that's currently there, as well as what they believe will be future needs, and then opportunity and how the community, both existing and future, can prosper. And a little bit about the vision statement. And again, this vision has been updated within the community plan process, but we really were looking for a way to help the community come together with one vision, bringing together both existing and future community members who are there, and looking for ways that they can be integrated into the community. So again, the community-wide approach and looking at how to be self-sustaining. There are 4 key design characteristics that we used in creating the overall plan. So these came out of what we heard from the community. So mobility being, again, key, forming character and how we begin to address that rural character, but it's that town and rural nature that they love so much, and how do we really bring those items together and help them flourish. Environment and open space, being able to both preserve it and also wanting to see the legacy of agriculture be able to stay in the community even though they know it's shrinking. And then the cultural capital piece. This is something that we thought was really important. There's a number of community groups in Waimama that have been doing things for the past several years and beyond. And so really, how do we leverage their strengths and their really, their embeddedness in the community to help the plan move forward? So again, this is the area that we're looking at. The shaded area is the WVR2. The area at the center is the rest of Waimama here. And this area at the center of our kind of half donut is within the urban service boundary. So you can see that downtown is within the urban service boundary. And then this portion of the residential area where Lake Waimama is, we have the WVR2, which surrounds that. And on the outside of WVR2, we have other rural land. So just so that we understand that pattern of development. We looked at connectivity, we looked at open space, and we looked at clustering. We looked at all of these things together and began to also look at what a formation of a more connected grid might look like throughout Waimama, and what opportunities we had for creating street networks and classifications, and for also looking at trail connections, particularly along what is currently the Tico easement. It does connect all the way through Waimama up to Balm and beyond. And what's amazing about this is it would connect new development through existing development right next to the downtown, and would really provide a very easy access to the downtown. So the downtown is not very large, it's small. And if you think about being able to walk from one side of it to the other, if it was a convenient walk, it would really only take you about 5 or 6 minutes. So when we begin to look at that distance, most of Waimama, including part of that WVR2, is really within close proximity to the downtown. So this is a key piece, and the reason that I point that out is because even though it is separated by the urban service boundary, the WVR2 has a symbiotic relationship with the downtown. And it's really important that we understand that, you know, all of Waimama as a whole community needs to be able to rely on that downtown as a center of activity and be able to leverage the development that happens around it. So the WTL report is something that we did read through and look at all the recommendations and work through them throughout the process of creating and drafting the policy. So we are looking to shift away from the employment requirement. And part of that is also due to changes in numbers. You'll see that the household has increased to 4.2 residents per housing unit in the Waimama area. And so there's a number of numbers that have changed in the past 15 years. And we're shifting from that requirement to to community benefit requirements. Some of those include land dedications, infrastructure, diversity of housing types, mobility improvements, and preservation of open space. And so this is, again, there are different selections that people can move from and to. It's a little bit different than how it would be working in BALM, and we would have a list that everyone would have to select from. So currently, in terms of the density allowances, right now it is 1 unit to 5 acres, and it can become 2 dwelling units per gross acre if they cluster at 3.5 dwelling units per acre. And again, there's a 40% open space requirement with that. So what is being proposed is to keep that the same, 1 unit to 5 acres, which could become 2 units per gross acre, clustering at a higher ratio of 4 dwelling units per acre, still maintaining a 40% open space, but we'll explain that in a little bit in terms of how it might look different. Also being proposed, though, is 20% affordable housing density bonus. This would allow them to cluster up to 8 dwelling units per acre. And this is to be able to get a number of different housing types integrated. So the 20% affordable housing density bonus is similar to what is in the code already, but within the urban service boundary. So essentially it would be something that would be extended to the WVR2 area. And again, it is within that close proximity of the downtown. So to give you an idea of why we're looking at those clustering ratios, we're looking at a diversity of housing types. So we are proposing that there be a mixture of at least 4 different housing types that would be clustered closest to the urban service boundary within the WVR2 area. And there is a community benefit item where they can select to do additional housing types above that 4. So we have apartment housing, courtyard apartments, row houses, cottage houses, side yard housing lots, standard housing lots, and also civic building lots, and a few images of how these might be different within that WVR2 area. And if we look at the open space requirement, which is currently 40% of the gross site acreage, we are going to keep that as proposed with the 40%, but we are also changing that percentage to 30% contiguous and 10% internal to the site, so that we would see a bit more green space integrated into those areas within the different housing developments that are going to be built. Those could take the shape of community parks, trails, and other green spaces in between the housing units themselves. And to explain a little bit about the transfer of development rights that's being proposed with the WVR2 and Waimama, this graphic shows you a little bit of what currently happens. So if you look on the left, right now you can transfer within the WVR2 a 1-to-1 ratio. So within the WVR2, it's a 1-to-1 ratio that can be transferred. What we are proposing is that the WVR2 would serve as a sending zone, and the downtown area is selected as a receiving zone, and we'll have a highlighted map to show you where that would be, with a transfer ratio of 1 to 2. So 1 ratio coming out of WVR2 would be worth 2 units in the downtown area. And this is really to encourage and incentivize the transfer of those developable units into the downtown and into the urban service area, preserving either open space or agricultural areas within the WVR2. And again, looking at this and why we would be doing this, again, we want to really support a thriving Main Street in the downtown. And the typical rule of thumb is 1 to 2,000 rooftops are needed to support 1 block of Main Street. And so this is a key piece. If we look at the existing numbers in Waimama, we can see that that's about what it is. So within that about 1.5 mile radius outside of downtown and the number of housing units we have, we are supporting approximately 1.5 to 2 blocks of the retail that currently exists in downtown Waimama. So there is a right balance to things, and really that's what we've been trying to achieve throughout the project, balancing the needs of the existing community, balancing the needs of business owners, balancing the needs of some of our community members who are struggling to pay for basic necessities, and balancing the needs of our landowners and our property owners, as well as our farmers. And so this has really been a balance within this community, and there's definitely give and take that will have to happen to find that right mixture. So this is a map of our downtown. We're looking at this area right here in the shaded area as the receiving zone. You'll see that sideways T shape is what we're looking at as the Main Street core. So we're looking at concentrating our retail on 674 and what is currently 4th Street, and reorienting that Main Street north-south to connect a little better to the trail and to future development as it comes along. And so really, again, just trying to support the community goals by looking at how we can begin to transfer development into this area and utilize this to really help support a more thriving Main Street. So part of that overlay for the downtown looks at form and character. We have just a rendering here of what an entrance to Main Street might look like. We heard a lot from the community about wanting a recognizable sign as you come through, something that would let you know that you have reached Waimama and that you are here. And so again, this is just an idea of what it might look like. And again, form and character on Main Street, really what the overlay is trying to achieve is, again, that form, that character, that scale, the overall feel, and how we bring together this idea of, that rural town center for Waimama. We looked at housing and affordable housing, and looking at programming, and again, supporting through that downtown receiving zone. Private property owners would be able to rezone their properties for an increase in density. This is something that is already within Hillsborough County's current zoning code and is currently allowed. So if you are going to include the affordable housing, then you do get the bonus density to move up to the next zoning category. So this is something that we thought was important to emphasize, and again, to be able to use this as a strategy with the TDR in the downtown to encourage development to happen in that downtown area. And I did mention that strategic action plan. So we're looking for initiatives to leverage assets in Waimama that could be led by the community. As I mentioned, there's a number of community groups and organizations that have done a tremendous amount over the past several years. They continue to do work in Waimama, and this is a way that they can come together and work on some strategic actions. So looking at development opportunities, looking at additional affordable housing opportunities, multimodal, health and wellness, education, business development, and then infrastructure components as well. This is what's upcoming. So we have another follow-up workshop with all of you. We'll be also talking with the Planning Commission public hearing. Then there's the transmittal adoption and the end of the moratorium. And I will turn it back over to all of you for questions. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or have discussion on the topics that you've seen.
Thank you, Ms. Savia. It looks like Commissioner Myers, you have your hand raised. You're recognized.
Commissioner Kemp, my hand is not raised.
It's on my screen, it's raised, so thank you. Okay, Commissioner Smith.
Thanks. First, I'll start with affordable housing, and I share the concerns raised. I concur with the points made by Commissioner Overman earlier about affordable housing in the rural area. We should, we do provide incentives for affordable housing inside the urban service area, including in Waimama's town center. We do that already, and it's a good thing for both single family homes and multifamily rental. But this proposal is now allowing density bonuses to encourage affordable housing outside the urban service area in the rural area. And like Commissioner Overman said, putting affordable housing way out in the rural area, somewhere out between Waimama and Fort Lonesome, would be doing a disservice to the people who would be lured way out there for housing. And then they would then find themselves having to own a car, one for each adult in the household, so they could drive long distances every day to get to jobs and medical services and groceries. And those cars, as we know, cost $10,000 a year each. Average low-income people, more than anyone, need to be near schools in areas where the roads are built to urban standards with sidewalks and bike lanes, so their children can walk and bike to school safely. And commissioners, in the Waimama area, a lot of people ride bicycles for transportation because they don't have a car for each person in the household. And so we need to consider what Commissioner Kemp said about not allowing so many design exceptions on the road, so that the roads, when they are improved, will be complete streets if for development out here for safety's sake. That's the other thing with affordable housing is I think we need to be careful about the promises we're making. And I've talked about all of this to staff, to the planners, and the consultants a few times in this process. I'm just bringing it out publicly here. We have to be careful about the promises that we're making to the community, who is hoping. There are people in Waimama hoping that when we say we're going to incentivize affordable housing in Waimama, that they're dreaming that that means they're going to be able to afford to buy these homes. But the definitions of affordable housing that we're using out here for low income and even very low income housing is from an average median income that applies to the whole county, counting Davis Island and Cheval, all averaged in. So the average median income for the county is much higher than the average median income in Waimama, where 1/3 of the population is below the poverty level. So if we're going to incentivize affordable housing in Waimama, we need to make sure that it is affordable for the citizens who need it, who are in Waimama, because otherwise we wouldn't, as a county-wide goal, be saying, let's put affordable housing out in Waimama and lure people from other parts of the county way out there, certainly not in the rural area. I'm a non-starter for putting it in the rural rural area anytime soon, and giving density bonuses for that. So, and I'm not seeing, our usual affordable housing builders wanting to do this outside the urban area, because that's just not a good place to put affordable housing. Back to the market study. Yes, I saw that same thing in there, that they suggest that we they point out the benefits, the economic benefits to our county for preserving agricultural land. It's much more economically beneficial to our county than residential developed land. In fact, as Commissioner Kemp pointed out, each dollar they pay in taxes, we don't spend that on them. Whereas with the residential, we spend much more than their taxes. So each house in the that we're building, especially way out in the rural area, is costing us in the county. Even with our recently increased impact fees, it's still costing us. The market study does not recommend, like the Wimauma Community Plan has, trading the commercial part of the Wimauma Community Plan, trading that away, eliminating it and trading it for these community benefits. As I understand it, they did talk about reducing the square footage of commercials and understanding that the households might have more people than originally planned for, and so doing the math a little different. But they did not recommend eliminating it, and I would certainly hope that we can retain some of that, even if we do kind of look into things like we had today on our land use hearing, whether or not to expand the definition of that to include things like daycare and possibly some other things. As I've talked to staff and the attorneys about, and other people about the need to make sure that we are putting in some timing elements and making sure that we plan development with infrastructure. Sometimes I've been met with some concerns that state statutes have been changed, and now we're not, they've tied our hands in some way, so we can't. But as a matter of fact, I've found in state statutes and some help for you. If you want to look at in your homework, as I have, state statute 163.3177.6, and you can contact my office and I'll get that to you. But the gist of it is, the state statute requires us to make any changes to our plans based on infrastructure. So it says the future land use plan and plan amendments, like we're contemplating here, shall be based upon surveys, studies, and data regarding the area as applicable, including many, many, many things, but also including the availability of water supplies, public facilities and services, also the discouragement of urban sprawl, and also the need for job creation and economic development to diversify the community's economy. And that's the other thing about preserving agricultural lands, which, we are within our planning rights to decide our big countywide comprehensive plan, land use plan, that we need to preserve a certain amount for commercial, a certain amount for environment, to preserve our wetlands, and we need to preserve agricultural, because not only is it more economically benefit, but ag is a very strong economic engine here and helps to diversify our economy. And of course, as you're seeing in Balm and Wimauma, the community who lives there, maybe not the community who doesn't live there but owns some land they want to make some money on, but the community who lives there wants to preserve agriculture for their community character. And our county has an interest in offering a variety of lifestyles including rural lifestyles. And so the preservation of agricultural land is a very valid goal, as it says in this market study, which also points out that we've lost 15,000 acres of agricultural land in the last in 11 years. So I would ask our planners and our attorneys to try to work together to find ways that we can put some teeth into these comp plan rules and land development code. I think that's what the community was looking for, more teeth, not a loosening of the rules that would lead to more density, but more teeth to make sure that any density goes along more with our infrastructure. And with that, I'll close with one other thing I saw in the RP2 was number 33.8 of the new comp plan amendment back in the RP2, talking about community connectivity and saying that plan amendment would require a multimodal mobility master plan shall be developed to identify existing roadways that need improvement and identify a multimodal local street network that connects residential and for future commercial nodes to focus future investments. And I think Commissioner Overman was talking about this as well. And, you know, I think this is great because but I think that this needs to come before we agree to move forward, even with 2 per acre density, much less 3 per acre, 4 per acre density bonuses in an area where our roads are so badly stressed. I think these infrastructure plans and the multimodal mobility master plan that's referenced here is not something that shall be developed after we all take a vote and vote for these density bonuses. I think it needs to come first so we understand that how these density bonuses will be accommodated. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other commissioners who have their hands up. I'll just take a few minutes. That's all. I think we've done a lot of kind of reviewing these plans. And for me, just a few more things kind of on the same vein, I think that has already been discussed. But I had stated before that I find any housing outside the urban service area to be inherently unaffordable by definition. I just don't think that you can do that. And it doesn't have, if multimodal, and sometimes that's I don't know what exactly that's supposed to describe, but if that describes transit, there will not, you know, the transit possibilities in any robust way to these areas, even the areas inside the urban service area. And this breaks my heart. I'm as much as a transit advocate as I know in the county, but right now, you know, I'll just to describe, you know, we put out these plans that look beautiful. I mean, you know, beautiful little town centers drawn up, or, you know, their renderings and whatever else, and make all these promises and talk about it. But the connect isn't there in our language requirements or even as a possibility. So there was a transit study that was done by the county and HART, and I can tell, and that transit study finally, after a couple years, was shared with me. And on it, frankly, I was appalled because what they did is they created 3 circulators in Waimama, infrequent circulators at that 3 circulators in Ruskin, and they I mean, I would love for every place to have the most robust transit possible, but in the entire county, and we barely have service to South County at all, the entire county's ad valorem budget for HART is $44 million. This cost $10 million in initial capital and $10 million a year to operate. And they didn't even get you to Brandon or Tampa. These were just, so it is to put out there expectations like that just breaks my heart, because then you know, it's not possible even when the sales tax comes, and so I think there has to be some connect to start to understand if transit is what you're talking about when you talk about multimodal, not bikes. As Commissioner Smith pointed out, we have to have complete streets and trails and whatever else to even accommodate bicycles. And that has not been done. But transit is a whole nother conversation. And I'll say again, inherently unaffordable to have this housing outside the urban service area, as Commissioner Smith said, and as I've said many times before, it costs $10,000 per family per year, and that might go up in the near future. And not to mention with the kind of gridlock pre-COVID that we were having, and I described at Big Bend Road, a doctor came in and met with me from St. Joe's, and he was so caught in traffic, and he had, had an alert to come aid someone with that was having a heart issue. He got out of his car, parked it at Walmart, and ran for 1 mile because he was a runner, and he figured he could make it to the hospital sooner. I mean, that is what we're looking at here. It's nothing to be trifled with. And we have to really be looking at that when we're talking about putting densities outside the urban service area, giving credits for all kinds of things. We need a huge reality check, and we need to have language that matches the vision that's put out there. It's one thing to put out the Taj Mahal, but if you don't have the support in your code to create that, I'd rather not have that picture and expectation be forward. I think it's let's do real things that we can truly provide. And one other comment I'd just like to make about open space that we have now. And that's something that I'll also bring forward at some point. But apparently the open space we have now can be defined as, first of all, a wetlands that they don't touch, but they get density credits for. Then they can put houses around the wetlands and have exclusive access to the wetlands or to the pond or whatever, the water feature, by those homes and not by the community at large. And I would say definitionally for me, that's not open space. That's another concern I have about how open space is defined. And that's all I have to say. So I guess we can move, because I don't see anyone else. So I guess we could move now to, I guess I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Zornito.
Okay, great. Thank you. Again, appreciate all of the input from the commissioners on these items. The next item is item A4 CPA 20-09.
Commissioner, could I make one comment on the implementation side? And I wanted to just, sorry.
Also, there's another hand up that I didn't see before. I don't know if it was there, but I didn't see anybody's hand. So go ahead, Mr. Gormley. Sorry.
Thank you. Just a brief note on the implementation side of things. There are some things that we'll be working with to make sure that they are able to be implemented the way that they are presented in the plan. But one thing I did want to highlight is the Main Street Core District in the Waimama downtown. It has the area that it encompasses has some areas that could come in today and be zoned and have commercial and retail uses, but there are some areas in there that, due to the future land use category, would be somewhat challenging today to come in and zone due to the category and their location, particularly relative to locational criteria. So I wanted to highlight that for the board as something that could be considered from an implementation standpoint, that the existing categories in some of that area are things that could be zoned to realize the commercial uses in the downtown, but there are other areas that would be somewhat challenged today. That was the point I wanted to make.
Appreciated. And Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a general comment after sitting and listening for the last, I guess, about hour and a half or so. There is an enormous amount here, as I'm sure you are all aware. I think, I'm not going to speak for Commissioner Myers, but I know that for myself, this is an overwhelming amount of information to process at once. And the one concern that I have is that I really think if we're going to do justice to all of the issues that are being raised, because there are a lot, I don't think our future workshops on this ought to be piggybacked on the end of an already scheduled land use meeting. I really think, for those of you who aren't in the room, we've been sitting here since 9 with masks on, and after a while, it just becomes difficult. I think, you know, I haven't been breathing normally since 9 o'clock this morning, and I think it might be helpful because as we get into the weeds of these issues, I really think we need to break it down into meetings that are a little bit more contained and specifically focused on one issue or another, because I'm just afraid with only one workshop left to cover all of this that we're never going to be able to get through these issues. So I'm making this statement now in the hope that perhaps we can figure out between now and really the beginning of February how we can squeeze in some more time for these discussions, because I mean just the amount that's been covered in the first 3 presentations is certainly enough probably to spend a whole day on. So I wanted to make that comment, because everyone is it's very obvious that those of you who were here have had a lot of time to really think through these issues and have all sorts of ideas on way that we can handle these things. And I think for those of us that are new, because of the fact that we're going to have to deal with this between now and next May, we're going to have to spend some time on it and not try to squeeze it all into 1 or 2 meetings, because I just think we'll give it short shrift.
For those comments, I can tell you that even with my experience at this, I'm rather exhausted, and it's too long a day for this, and I appreciate that, and I do think we need to break it up and give more time, and especially for the new commissioners. I'm just you're just getting hit with so much. I just can't even imagine it. And as you say, piggybacked on the other, these are huge topics, and I can't even, I guess maybe just getting some little here's and there's to begin to build your knowledge base and in this. But I can imagine it's exhausting. I know for myself, I might even be going back and as I do sometimes watching this all again, but it is a lot. I appreciate that. And I would also commend to staff that we really need to set aside, some separate workshops that are independent and, don't piggyback on this. I doubt if you were expecting quite the intensity of this morning, but this is quite substantial on top of that. Recognize Commissioner White.
Thank you. Mr. Gormley, at the next workshop, I would just like to better understand your concerns about the proposed overlay district and whether or not you and your staff have any recommendations.
Certainly. Yes, sir.
To get some kind of recognition or award just for still being here. Commissioner Myers.
Sanita, I'd just like to ask at our next workshop, because we've had a conversation regarding how we can pilot planning for programs where land is already there that we can offer developers where they can build. Because listen at this presentation today, it's an excellent presentation, but at the same time, it's overwhelming. I'm just going to be upfront. I would like to have it in segments because as we have to vote on these issues, and because one of my concerns, and I've shared this earlier, when we are talking about we got to build our infrastructure where we have no fire stations, no water, no parks, no schools, but yet we're sitting here doing the major planning and saying where we cannot build, but if we have and identified where we can, I think that would be helpful as well.
Yes, we definitely can. I appreciate the feedback. I'll work with Adam and the county administration on how best to schedule the next workshops, and appreciate very much that this is kind of like drinking from a fire hose. Even for those of you who've been on the board for a while, there are a lot of documents in this package. So appreciate all the feedback you've given and want to make sure you have enough time to digest and give additional feedback going forward. So we'll work on that schedule.
I would say too that honestly, the WTL study looks at that. I mean, I think one thing, just for Commissioner Myers' edification at this time, there are all kinds of approved developments that are not in the ground yet that are all ready to be added, as Commissioner Smith had talked about, and the WTL report that we haven't been even presented with yet, but a few of us have read it, shows that what is already out there and entitled, what can already be built, is what stresses all of our systems. And that's to my point of rapacious growth at a unprecedented volume has already been approved and can be built yesterday. And so that's already in the pipeline for anyone to act on. But I appreciate it. It's a very, and also maybe if more could be explained to new commissioners about the urban service area and rural service area and what that means to some extent would be helpful just as a basis.
Sure.
And so we'll move to I think we can move to the next item, Mr. Anita.
Okay, great. The next item is CPA 2009, which Krista Kelly will be presenting.
Okay, can you see it? I'm Krista Kelly with the Planning Commission. I'm presenting a privately initiated text amendment, CPA 20-09. This is a text amendment to the housing element, the affordable housing section. The text amendment applies to policy 3.6.1 and table 3 in the housing element. The text change consists of two major components: affordable housing and transit. The affordable housing component proposes an incentive within planned developments, also within the WVR2 land use category, to qualify for a maximum of 3 dwelling units. The site must meet minimum size and design requirements for planned developments in the Waimama community plan area, and the developer must provide public water and sewer. This is all required in accordance with the future land use element, the community plan, and the land development code. A criteria is that for affordable housing, at least 20% of the development is reserved for low and very low income households. The second component for an additional dwelling unit within the planned development for a maximum of 4 dwelling units is that transit service must be operational and available at the time of the final plat. Transit service must include at least 1 transit stop in downtown Waimama. Criteria for the affordable housing bonus must have been met. The applicant must coordinate with HART for planned transit stops and the design distance requirements relative to affordable housing standards. And the applicant shall provide evidence that sufficient funding is available to cover capital and operational costs of the transit service for a minimum of 10 years. Basically, this text amendment updates the language. The updated, I'm sorry, excuse me, updated language was provided by the applicant November 12th. This amendment text has previously come before the Planning Commission and hence been revised. It was sent out for external review by the county, to the county by the Planning Commission, and we are waiting for those responses, which would be in your final packets. And the BOCC transmittal public hearing for this item would be February 4th, 2021. That is a brief overview, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen, do you have your hand up? Maybe not. Commissioner.
Thank you. And we're getting some feedback.
We're getting some feedback.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
Is that better? There we go.
So, so we've seen this before. I recognize it's a new version. The points I made earlier about affordable housing density bonuses in the rural area all apply here. It just doesn't make sense to be putting affordable housing and giving density bonuses for it in the rural area. I will just note, in addition, that there are loopholes galore in the promise of transit within this comp plan amendment proposal. Actual transit service is not required to be available at the time of zoning. So if this were passed and a zoning comes to us like we had this morning, and it says we want the affordable housing density bonuses out in the WVR2 area, and we want it to be not 2 per acre, we want not 3 per acre, we want that extra 4 per acre we could get if we have the transit. They don't have to show us the transit, because actual transit service is not required to be available at the time of zoning. The transit service only has to go as far as the Waimama Town Center. That's the only other required stop. If it actually gets built later, and it can be funded publicly or privately, what does that even mean? There are no guarantees that it will operate for any length of time beyond the platting. They only have to show that if it's funded by a CDD or a TIF, that the funding is available for 10 years. But that doesn't say the service will operate for 10 years. So, trying to offer 4 per acre density for affordable housing in the rural area for this promise of maybe transit, it's just not ready for prime time. And finally, whether it's 3 per acre without the transit or 4 per acre with the very weak promise of transit, there's just no good reason to put affordable housing way out there in the rural area And again, especially without any math showing that the houses would be affordable to the average median income of the residents of Waimama. So the only reason to put some affordable housing in Waimama, and I mean inside the urban service area, in the town center, where they could, walk to some things and bike to some things, is if you can make it affordable to the residents of Waimama. And I'll end with saying, I live in Ruskin. I'm seeing subdivisions popping up all over Ruskin inside the urban service area with price points that are brand new housing, price points that are fairly close to what I've talked to the planners about would be required by these standards for affordable housing. So we don't need to incentivize it. They're building it by the hundreds, some pretty inexpensive housing inside the urban service area. I imagine it should be cheaper outside the urban service area. Keep in mind that we are on a low pressure sewer system in Ruskin and Waimama. So I'm not sure when they say that public sewer would be required, if that's what they're talking about. If so, that's another problem, as I'm sure the planners are aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Did you, Commissioner Cohen, have your hand raised?
No, I didn't, but thank you.
Yes, and I just want to say, honestly, I find this just absurd. And I've never pronounced anything I've seen before that, but this is just so completely and utterly flawed that I can't imagine that we would ever, hopefully never, move forward anything like this. I didn't hear our affordable housing standard of 80% for the entire, 80% of AMI for the entire development, again, as a top bar. I heard the lower, 20% of the low and very low, but I didn't hear the 80% for the top bar. But the other is just, as I've stated before, it would make more sense to me that you would have transit already operating there for 10 years before. And then maybe talk about it and show that it's operational and for real. But, so little right now of South County inside the urban service area is just barely served to an extent. And I've said before, we are the most underfunded transit system in the nation for a metro area the size of Tampa by a long shot, with the size of Hillsborough County, the population, by a long shot, not just by a little bit, equal to Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And I've looked at the old maps that we've had over the years of transit. We actually formerly had far more transit. I'm not sure how frequent it was, but we had far more routes that we just keep cutting and cutting and cutting from 2002 to the present, unfortunately. So I don't see this as being plausible or helpful as a way to provide affordable housing or any benefits for our residents or people that need that benefit. And I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Arnita.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda was added at your request, Chairman Kemp, in relationship to a future issue that had been raised earlier this year on wetland density credits. I provided a memo with some information that outlines how the wetland density credit works, as well as some analysis, very, very rough numbers, but we wanted to give some context to how many units we generally thought would be generated by the wetland density credit in the urban service area and in the rural area. And then we also, as you mentioned, provided some examples of how other communities handle these issues, many of whom, as you recognized, incorporated these into their transfer development rights programs. I'm happy to answer any questions or expand on anything you wish, but it was my understanding this was sort of an introduction to the issue. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, I will say that we do give wetland, and we will get more into that, but I really wanted to, because I felt this was critical to this conversation when we look at this area. And as I've said, it appears that there aren't a lot of wetland credits given in other places. And in fact, there's mostly a transfer of development rights, and that's not even for wetlands in from the list I was given, but really for protecting environmentally fragile areas and wildlife corridors, which I would love to see expanded into our area. But I first asked that this issue be addressed in July of this year. Wetland density credits allow developers to achieve additional density based on the presence of wetlands in parcels they own or have assembled in development. These credits are on top of other credits. You haven't heard about these today because you've heard about all these other credits that they want. But these credits are on top of other credits that they might receive. And despite other policies that suggest limiting density outside the urban service area, this credit is used to create additional density in the rural service area, with the exception of a couple community plans. The Waimama Village and RP2 Market Study, the one that we've been referring to, the WLT study, had a great deal to say about this. And I was surprised when I read it because it followed what I instinctually believed to be the case. And so I wasn't necessarily expecting this support, but or this note from this study. But I'm going to ask to please put up the slide I submitted that quotes from the study, if we could. Thank you. Okay, there we go. This is from the WTL study, which I think we're going to have a special workshop on, have a presenter. This is just one of the points they make. Recommendation number 2, modify the combined density policy to net developable acreage. So in other words, you know, anything that you could build on, that should be your net developable acreage, not including wetlands with special extra density added because you have a wetland on your property. Residential densities in approved planned development projects were intended to follow guidelines that restricted densities at all levels closer to the original plans for the rural service area. However, these regulations provide for an exception for shifting the undevelopable area densities, the wetlands, within a parcel to other locations in which development can occur. So they monetize these wetlands that you couldn't otherwise build on and help them create more density elsewhere. For example, if you have a 100-acre wetland parcel that was entitled to 250 dwelling units or 2.4 units per an acre, but 30% of the parcel is designated as a wetland, environmentally sensitive, or another condition limiting land uses, current development regulations that we have in place at this moment and have for decades, we can't even figure out where it came from, allow that the usable property portion's density can be shifted to the developable side of the parcel, giving them all that 30% that they can create and turn into more units on the upland portion of it. It's recommended that this practice should be modified to base developable density within parcels on the net developable land area, as opposed to the gross acreage. So no longer give these credits. The benefits of preserving wetlands and other environmentally sensitive conditions should be stand on their own. These unbuildable conditions should not be included in the calculation of allowed density combinations within a single parcel. And I'll say to you too that the WTL study, also, as I noted before, said you can't even, Hillsborough County, you cannot do transfer of development rights. It's not possible because you already give so many credits for everything and give away the shop that you have nothing to bargain with. And so this is one of the things that they point out that we should do, and that is apparently pretty standard in other places, that they don't give these density credits. And I know Commissioner Smith will probably, there's a few community plans that have have eliminated the wetland density credits. But I've been asking for this change for some time. I thought it was my idea, but it turns out we have some independent experts who recommended this, not by anything that I or anybody else said, because I never talked to them. And I'm going to be bringing this forward at the next meeting. We paid this nationally recognized consulting firm to make recommendations about how to resolve our land use issues in South County. That's what they were doing. And they made pages and pages of recommendation, but we haven't integrated them in any way so far in what we're doing. And I think, as I said earlier, we need to do that. They haven't been presented to the board overall. So I'm anxious to hear from this consultant directly about the study and the recommendations so that we can consider them. And I want it to be considered as part of how we move forward and anything we do in South County. But with that, I will be finished. And I don't know if Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. And just very briefly, I was very interested to see this analysis chart of comparisons of the several other Florida counties done by the Planning Commission. Thank you very much for that, showing that what of the 12 jurisdictions examined, only 5 have a wetland density credit similar to Hillsborough County. And so, as in so many things, we are an outlier in some of these things. But yes, I don't know when that was, 15 years ago, I was instrumental in writing the Ruskin Community Plan. And I went for inspiration to the Keystone Community Plan, which came before me and was very well done by the citizens in that area. And I talked with them about it. But I copied that idea from them. So I know for sure in the Keystone Community Plan, like the Ruskin Community Plan, we do not allow wetland density credits. In the, in the Ruskin Community Plan, which is in the Livable Communities element of our comprehensive plan on page 77, goal 3 for protecting and enhancing Ruskin's environment, one of the first strategy is that density calculations will be based on upland areas and no density credits will be assigned to wetland areas for new development within the Ruskin Community Plan area. I mean, simple enough. Melissa, let me ask you, is it just Keystone and Ruskin who do that in Hillsborough County?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was just kind of frantically flipping through the element to see. I actually think that Johanna might have also explored this issue in her research. So if she recalls if there's any others, I'm happy for the help.
Well, it's no matter. The point is that there are at least 2 places within Hillsborough County where the rules are different. And so we could certainly easily also say the rules should be different in RP2 and WVR2 to start with, and in the rural area to start with, if not some other communities that would like to be included. The Ruskin Community Plan also eliminated the flex provision, by the way, but I think that's not allowed in the rural area anyway. Is that true?
That is correct. In the 2008 update of the comprehensive plan, we removed the allowance for the flex in the rural area. And we also, at that time, it actually was proposed to remove the wetland density credit from the rural area by the Planning Commission staff, but it was not the direction of the board at that time to make that change.
Thank you. Well, maybe, in light of some things that have changed, I'm talking about infrastructure stresses and considerations of protecting our wetlands, because one other reason for doing this is when you have wetlands, the more dense development you pack around those wetlands, the more stormwater runoff and pollution you have going into them. So there are environmental reasons to have more buffer and less density, specifically around the wetlands, but as well as, some of the other concerns of density in the rural area to begin with. But when I was growing up in Florida, it was kind of a joke that the idea that if you were going to buy that, why maybe I could sell you some, instead of the Brooklyn Bridge, we would say, maybe I'll sell you some swampland. I've got some swampland in Florida to sell you. If you're that gullible, I've got some swampland in Florida to sell you. And that's because swampland is supposed to be, undevelopable. And so there's no reason why we should be giving development credits for swampland. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I have to, we're going to have our legal staff look into it. I swear that I read a Supreme Court decision with a famous justice who said, if you buy a swamp, you get a swamp, or something like that, some time ago. So anyway, with that, I think we are finished up here. Is that correct, Ms. Anita? Okay. And trial by fire to our new commissioners, Commissioner Cohen and Commissioner Myers, made it through. Again, we should give you some kind of recognition if you come back to the next board meeting. So thank you all, and we stand adjourned.